recognized for her achievement and her leadership, not just locally but nationally. She was recently vetted as a potential candidate to be the chair of the FCC. Again, it is quite an honor to have Catherine Sandoval as a friend for our efforts. And so again, thank you.
Gracias, thank you so much. It is such a pleasure and honor to be here. I was sorry I missed the reception. The plane I was on from San Jose needed some hydraulic fluid, and I believe the plane should get whatever it wants. So I am truly honored by this award, and thank you so much to Larry Ortega, to the new internet users, to the Korean churches, to AT&T, to all of the friends, amigos, sponsors, all the padres who have participated in this. It is truly inspiring to be able to be here, and especially because this is my old neighborhood. So I just wanted to share a few thoughts with you about NIU, thinking about neighborhood and network, information and what that means for people, and also about understanding and unity. So this is my old neighborhood. I grew up not very far from here, near the corner of Olympic and Soto. I went to then Dakota Street Elementary School, which is now Dina Elementary School. And that story that I told you, actually part of what happened was that they didn't test us the first time. The principal was simply able to check a box and declare the entire school to be mentally retarded with no testing. And it was through information, then through chisme, that the word got out down the block. And my mother, who was one of the original Mujeres Fuertes, found out about it and started organizing our block and forced the principal to test us. And that is how I went from mentally retarded to, as it turns out, mentally gifted overnight. And I do shudder to think what would have happened had that label followed me and my sister for even longer, and how it would have changed my educational opportunities. And I remember once we got tested, that new resources came to our school. And not just in the classes that we were able to take, because suddenly we were in mentally gifted minor classes, but we got to go to field trips. We got to see museums. I went to the LA County Art Museum for the first time in my life. And, you know, thinking about it today, this is also what the internet can do for you, is open up the world, again, from the backyard, from the neighborhood, to now this network that is not just the city and where the bus can carry you, but to the entire world. And I think about my grandfather who came to the United States from Mexico, from Irapuato, Guanajuato. And, all right, Guanajuato. Woo. And they were peones. They were campesinos sin tierra who worked on the land. And the story goes that one day the hacendado often castigaban a mi bisabuelo, and then my bisabuelo would castigar a mi bisabuela. And so one day one of these castigaban peleos, beating up circles, was happening. And my bisabuela said to my abuelo, váyase de aquí y nunca regresa. No hay nada aquí, solo pobreza. So she said to him, leave here and never come back. There's nothing here but poverty. And he left, and he went to Arizona, and he got to meet my grandmother, who grew up in Bisbee, and her family had been there for generations before America was in that part of Arizona. And he never was able to communicate to his family again, because they were debt peons. They were poor campesinos who had no telephone. And the mail in Mexico is still today notoriously bad. But imagine and hearing your stories about suddenly how people, these parents, the grandparents, are able to communicate with their relatives in Mexico, in South Korea, without worrying about the bills, without worrying about the calls, even if their relatives do have a phone calls. I could imagine the lágrimas, the tears, the joy of that unity that my grandfather would have felt in being able to keep those communications. So I thank you so much for the work you're doing. And just a couple of words about investment in information. You know, as we're hearing these stories, it reminded me when I was in law school, I had the opportunity to work with CRLA, the California Rural Legal Aid Association. And we did a project with parent educational leadership in Hollister, California. And so we were working with migrant farm worker parents, trying to teach them to be educational leaders for their children. And one of the things that we taught them was that in Hollister, and this was, I graduated from law school in 1990, they were doing exit testing in that school district, long before it was the standard in the state of California. And so they also had testing to move from one grade level to another. So one of the problems is that a lot of the Latino children, especially the children of the farm workers, were not being advanced from one grade to another. So we did some research as law students and found out how to read the test. It was very complicated, and again, it was different because it wasn't standardized through the state. And then we taught the parents in Espanol how to read the test, what to ask for, and then what to ask for in terms of the classes that their children were in so that they would be able to properly advance. And then we asked the padres to go to the school and to look at their child's files. We taught them about the rights that they had under the California laws to look at the files. And they told stories about how they went to the schools and they asked for the child's files. And sometimes they were met with, oh, look, you know, here's Jose, and look at his picture, and he's so handsome, and he's doing this and this. And then the principal would sometimes close the file. And the parents would say, no, no, no. I want to see this information about this test, and I want to see the classes that he's enrolled in. And they would get the information about the test, and they could interpret the test, and they would ask these questions, and then they came back to the class the next time, and it was like they had grown 10 feet tall, and they said, I felt powerful, I felt smart, I felt intelligent. And that's what I hear in the stories you're saying, because information is intelligence, and it makes people feel intelligent, and it gives people the capacity to act. And again, I thank you for what you're doing to give that to people. And last, about understanding. And being here again, I'm just reminded of the beauty of Los Angeles, the diversity, the unity of Los Angeles, but also part of what you give us through your work and your research is understanding that everybody is not the same. So luckily on the plane, and since we had some time because of the hydraulic fluid we were waiting for, I was able to get on the Wi-Fi and look at the NIU website and found out that for many of the classes, only 15% of the parents had ever used the internet before they got into the class. Many parents had never used the internet at all. But it's so important for all of us to understand that there are people in our community who are still in that situation, and that may not just describe parents, but children who don't have internet access at home and have to go to McDonald's to be able to get access to the internet. I see here Dr. Mark Toney from Turn, and last week we were in Riverside in Los Angeles, and one of the parents who was in Riverside was saying that she has to take the bus now to go to the library to get onto the computer to be able to get her child's grades because the district is no longer mailing grades to the house. Okay, well that might have been a money-saving move for the district. You know, did people really think about the whole chain of what that would lead to for the parents and the costs that it would lead to for them to take the bus? But also, I was so impressed at the dedication, at the ganas of that mother to go and take the bus, to go to the library and make sure she was there on time before it closed so that she could get to see her child's grades. And we need to understand that so many of our people still live in those circumstances. And in my spare time, last thought in closing, Larry, so my spare time last semester, I taught communications law at UC Berkeley. And one of the things I asked the students about was just thinking about internet access. And one of the students said, well, I'm never away from Wi-Fi for more than 15 minutes a day. I just don't think it's a problem. Well, the question is the rest of the world like the UC Berkeley campus? If it were, we wouldn't have a problem. But it's not. And I challenged the students, and one of their projects was to do something different in the media than they normally did, to expose themselves to something different. And they really discovered that they had created this world that was this daily me that just only affirmed their points of view. And again, this is what you're doing through the internet, is opening up from the neighborhood to the network so that now they can understand that the whole world is open to them. So gracias, thank you so much to everyone with NIU for your work and your support for our padres. Gracias.